Wasted potential. Wasted potential. Wasted potential. This character I'm about to talk about within this video is the meaning of the phrase wasted potential. Let me explain. Now, my fellow flames of Amethyst, before the video commences, if you would be so kind as to drop a like, comment and subscribe if you're new, that would be very much appreciated because we're trying to hit 10,000 subscribers. So if you could give me a hand in getting me to that goal, that would mean the world to me. Now, anyway, where was we? Back to the video. Did you ever hear the tragedy of Calcharo, the 5-star resonator? You know, the guy that everyone wanted when they saw him not only in the CBT, but also the early gameplay footage of Wuthering Waves. You know, the guy that looked like Virgil and Sephiroth fused together to create the ultimate being. That guy? Yeah, I do too. The guy that everyone wanted. The guy that looked astounding. The guy that looked like he harnessed the power of Thor himself. And then when we finally got a piece of that pie, we realized it was bland. The pie was bland. It was mid at best. Actually, you know what? It was above average at best because for presentation-wise, it looked amazing. It looked delicious. Just like Calcharo, he looked amazing. His animations were cooked to perfection. He had an install super which allowed him to transform and then gain a stand behind him to fight alongside him while he was in his Resonance Liberation form. He literally looked like Sephiroth and Virgil, and he looked amazing. And then, my fellow flames, you realize deep down, he was just okay.
What?
He was just an average unit that some 4 stars could easily surpass, and you're mainly just playing him because his animations were cool, and because he was cool, not because the unit itself was really, really good. I mean, a couple of patches later, Zhang Liao released, took his spot, took his girl, and then everyone was using him. And then Calcharo had to sit there and go, nah, they'll use me eventually. They'll get bored of this guy. So what if he clears the TOA in record time? So what if he took my girl and they work really well together? So what if he's for free? I was technically for free. You guys used your free tickets and your free selector for me, right? Yeah, Calcharo got fucked over and replaced very, very quickly by Zhang Liao, but hey, if you are loyal to the cause, and that cause being Calcharo, and you're still playing him to this day, I salute you, good sir, because you are struggling through the endgame, you are struggling through the content, but you're persisting, not because you know it's difficult, of course you know it's difficult, but because you are not abandoning your boy, you are not abandoning the Sephiroth-Virgil fusion that is Calcharo. No, 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 no! You are here to stay, and until we see him in lore, in a cutscene, in the story, which looks to be the case ever since we've been seeing more and more teases with Calcharo in it, like the recent cinematic that we saw. He's there for whatever reason in Renacita. Why he was there, I will never know, but they're teasing him for something, and my guess is the New Federation. By the way, guys, if you don't know what the New Federation is, it is a city and a place in Huanglong where basically Calcharo is from. It's where he originates from. And if they're teasing this now, it means we're probably going to see him in the future. But the question I have is, why wasn't Calcharo in the base story of Wuthering Waves? Well, that's because Wuthering Waves got rewrites, and originally we were going to different parts of the region of Huanglong, solving different mysteries, and if you remember the area where the big Unga Bunga monkey was, the big arrow monkey, in the CBT, there was actually a cutscene where he turns up and saves the day. He was actually meant to be in the base story because he was going to be an ally that helps you solve the mystery of that poisoned island and why the monkeys and the wildlife are going haywire. You solve that mystery with him, and then he goes on his merry way, and I'm sure we would have seen him again later on, but due to the Wuthering Waves rewrites, I'm guessing they writ him out and are saving him for a later date. Now, because we saw him in the teaser of whatever the future updates are, we saw him in that cinematic and they were teasing him for something. They would not put Calcharo, a forgotten character, a character that doesn't even technically exist in the story of Wuthering Waves up until this very point of them teasing him. There is no reason why they would not tease him unless they have some sort of plan for him. Whether or not we see him when we go to Septimon leading on to the New Federation down the road, or if there's a mission that is involving him because he is a bounty hunter, he is a mercenary, so if he's hired for a job and he appears, it's usually because he's here to take out a target or because there's something going on that he's been hired to take care of. And if that's the case, that would be a very good moment for us to experience, which then is going to lead us into the New Federation. Or another theory is, leading on to a previous video I did very, very recently involving Scar, Maybe he was hired to break Scar out of prison. Maybe Frolova knows she herself cannot break Scar out of prison, so they need to hire someone with immense talent and exquisite skills, and someone who knows what they're doing in these kind of circumstances, and I'm guessing that might be Calcharo. So maybe Calcharo will be an adversary who we need to fight, not because he's evil, but because he's been hired by the Fractidus to break Scar out of prison, or he's here for another job, and we're just here to help him solve and complete that job and accomplish his goal, and then eventually that's leading on to him taking us to the new Federation. I don't know. These are just theories. They're game theories, and these are just moments that I've just sort of thought off the top of my head. But Calcharo was a character that was very beloved when the launch of Wuthering Waves. I loved Calcharo. I used my free-to-play ticket on him. I used him immensely. I still used him above Zhang Liao. I stopped using him mostly when Jinshi came out because my main DPS team was Jinshi, and then it was Yuan Wu, and then it was Showkeeper later on when she came out. So I was using Calcharo up until that team sort of took over, right? And that team didn't really take over until Showkeeper came out. I had Jinshi and I had Yuan Wu, but my team basically was around Calcharo as my main DPS. Then it was Yinlin. Then it was Yuan Wu, because those three were three Electro characters, and it was my mono Electro supremacy, whatever you want to call it, team, and I very much had a good time playing with that team. And then when Showkeeper came out, I then basically booted the other Electro guys off, and I kept Yuan Wu because Yuan Wu is Jinshi's best in-slot support, or one of her best in-slot supports. And then I basically used Jinshi, Yuan Wu, and Showkeeper together. But sorry, a little bit of a side tangent there. The point is, Calcharo in lore is very, very cool. You have to actually play as Calcharo and earn his intimacy levels up and his friendship levels up, and then you can actually read more and more about his lore. And I'm not going to go too deep into it because I am working on a Calcharo lore video, but he is so cool. He was a mercenary way back in the New Federation. He actually was leader of his own group and later on betrayed that group because that group was basically getting out of hand. He had enough of their side hustles and had enough of their disobedience, so he basically staged their death and then basically formed another group. I'm not going to go too deep into it, but he's very, 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 very cool, and he has wasted potential. Wuthering Waves, if you do not add him into the game very, very soon, Kuro Games, if you don't incorporate him in the story very, very soon, that's going to upset a few people. People love this character. Even to this day, he has a very loyal following, and people want to see Calcharo. They want to see Sephiroth and Virgil's fusion in the story of Wuthering Waves, and I believe you are planning something, because why else would he be in the teaser? Why else would he be in the teaser going into the future patches? Why would he be there? I don't know. You could have had a John there. You could have had Yinlin there. You could have had Zhang Liao there. You could have had Showkeeper was there, but you could have had anyone else that is more closer and more relevant to the Rover story. Instead, you incorporate Calcharo, who technically, as of right now, has not met the team and hasn't met Rover. So why would you do something like that? Unless you have something planned for him. But hey, this is just what I am hoping for and what I'm thinking. I wanted to make this video to talk about him because he is a wasted character with wasted potential in lore, and maybe he will be the first character to receive a buff, because he is quite doggy doo-doo when you compare him to a lot of the units. If you incorporate him in the story soon, maybe he will be the first character to gain a buff. You know, the Kuro Games aren't strangers to buffing their old characters in their other games. PGR, if there's an outdated unit, they give him another version of that unit. So maybe Calcharo gets an ascendant, thing, maybe gets a reawakening, since there are reawakenings in Wuthering Waves. Who knows? But anyway, thank you so much for watching the video. I will see you in the next one. Take it easy and have a good rest of your day, my fellow flames.